one of MLF Bass Pro Tour's most interesting tournament of the entire year, MLF Heavy Hitters, is right around the corner. And it's on one of the most interesting lakes that I would say most of the big tournaments haven't been to in several years, Smith Mountain Lake. So I thought I'd bring an expert on and a buddy on to talk about it because I think this is going to be quite the tournament to watch this weekend. What's going on, Billy?
What is up, Rich? How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited, man. I'm like 50-50, like super interested to see how this tournament goes. If it's going to be like a nail biter deal, if somebody's just going to like 2-pound it to death, or if somebody's going to catch like good bags every day. I'm going to spend a little bit of time out there kind of chasing them around and stuff. I got a couple guide trips during the tournament, which we'll see how that goes too, and how big the crowds are kind of through the weekend. But I'm excited, dude. You're 100% right. I don't think there's been a major tournament here since the elites came, and I think that was 16 years ago, 17 years ago. I wasn't anywhere near moving to here at this point, but it's been almost 2 decades.
Yeah. So HellaBass Live on a Wednesday night, back to a kind of semi-normal schedule after some tournaments and life and work and travel. Presented by Arsenal Fishing, boosted by Powerhouse Lithium. And excited to break down Smith Mountain Lake, which I've fished one time with Billy.
Feels like that was 100 years ago, bro.
It was probably like 5-ish.
Yeah, 5 or 6 probably, right?
It was like right at the end of COVID because we drove to North Carolina while the kids were like in COVID school. So it would have been 2020, I'm guessing, is probably when it happened.
Yeah, for sure. We got to get you back down, man. It's fishing. Fishing crazy different too than it did 5 years ago.
So, Billy Kohls, I forget, are you from Minnesota or just made a spin through Minnesota?
Nope, I'm from Minnesota. Elko, grew up in Elko, Bloomington to Elko to St. Paul for school, and then I dipped out because I never got into ice fishing. So I was like, you know what? I taught snowboarding lessons at Buck Hill, and then had a bad injury, and then I was like, I don't ice fish. I'm getting seasonal depression, and I moved to North Carolina. Moved around a bunch, and then you and I obviously have mutual friends through a bunch of fishermen and stuff in Minnesota, and then through just traveling and everything, ended up at Smith Mountain. Started a guide business 5 years ago, and been rocking and rolling that. Run a couple other businesses with my wife, but my guide business was supposed to be a fun side hustle. You and I've talked about that before, and then it just ended up being a crazy blessing, and I'm on the water probably 200 to 250 days a year. So,
well, Brian says we sound good. Look at. Speaking of Buck Hill, on the foot of Buck Hill last year on Father's Day, I busted 23 pounds in like 2 hours on a big chicken jig out there on Crystal.
Nice. Yep. I do miss some of the fishing around there, man. I fish Briar Lake a bunch, like
Turtle probably. Yeah.
Do you know Turtle?
Shoreview?
I think so. Like
up by 694, Highway 10, north suburbs.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Really, really crappy ramp to get in on. Like if the water's low, you can't get in there.
There's like a little shallow rock reef, not too far from the ramp. Yeah.
Yeah, that was probably one of my favorite like finds right before I left. And then, dude, pool, you do it. Pool 2. I fished Pool 2 as soon as it iced off pretty much every year since I had a boat. So.
That's where I went Saturday morning with my 3 hours of fishing time on the opening weekend.
Yeah. Is it fishing pretty good or what?
Yeah, the like the smallies, they were doing their thing, pulling up tight. I was kind of trying to practice my perspective mode.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is they opened the top of Gray Cloud, so current runs through there now. You know how it used to, that road would dead end? Like there's current, like supposedly that was its natural state and they wanted to return it to, and now Gray Cloud is nothing like it used to be.
Interesting. I miss that place. But besides that, dude, I love Smith Mountain, and I'm probably not moving anywhere soon. So
yeah, absolutely. So we talked about a little bit, right? So Smith Mountain Lake was like in decent rotation, I would say, in the mid to late 2000s, right? 2005, 2010. Like I remember like KBD and Skeet Reese and Shad Spawns and swim. Like some of the first lakes on the East Coast really saw swim baits play in Elite Series tournaments.
Yep.
Casey Ashley got a win there. I think Skeet got a win there.
Yep.
A few different things there. And it's nobody's really been back there since. I mean, they probably still have BFLs and regional tournaments and team tournaments and the Cat Trail and those places go right there and stuff like that. So still like to the people that live in North Carolina and Virginia and that area, still a very popular tournament destination. But as far as like Toyotas, Opens, Invitationals, Elites, Bass Pro Tour, nobody's been there in like 15 years.
Yeah. And I don't know, dude. Again, I fished here on and off for probably 12 years at this point, lived here for almost 5. I don't know if it's an infrastructure thing. There's plenty of boat ramps. There's plenty of places to stay and stuff like that. I don't know kind of what caused that, what kind of caused that pause, but the lake has progressively gotten better in the last decade. They did a lot of F1 stocking here. I think we're on year, for anybody that's local, forgive me if I mess this up. I think we're on year 9, might be year 10. But we're seeing a massive push of some big ones this year. Like we saw two or three fish really close to 10 pounds, one over 10. Another person here cracked a 36-pound bag this spring. Like there's some serious big fish that rolled up this year. It was extremely cold in Virginia, which, talking to a lot of the local guys, like that was kind of a normal winter, and we've just had a kind of weird mild winters for the last 3 years. So there's some giant fish in this lake. I don't know that I don't think anybody's going to catch a 10-pounder this week. But I think we're going to see a lot of 5-pounders. I think we're probably going to be in that 7-8 range. Low 8 is what I'm kind of leaning towards as far as somebody taking home the heavy hitter deal. But also, dude, I see striper guides post or show me pictures at the gas station of 9 and 10-pounders that they catch on live bait all the time. So there are definitely plenty of big ones in here. And then as far as numbers go, it's a super well managed lake. And it's got a lot of 2.5 to 3.5 pounders in here that I wouldn't say they're dumb. They might be dumb maybe the first day of this tournament, but once they get a little bit pressured, I think it's going to be pretty tough on some of these guys, just from my experience with guiding and being out there multiple days a week. But they should catch a pretty good amount as far as the kind of schooly size. And then I think somebody's going to crack a big one probably first thing in the morning. So.
Yeah. And so interesting format, right? Heavy hitters. It's only, I think, 30 anglers qualified for heavy hitters, right. I believe.
Yep. It's 30.
It's back to their 6-day format. So this is going to be a marathon. I think it starts Saturday and goes through
Thursday.
It's 2-pound minimum for the first 5 days, and the last day is a 3-pound minimum. Every fish counts. So then you've got basically 4 days of qualifying rounds, 2 groups of 15. The top 8 out of each of those 15 qualify for the knockout round. You got 16 guys. They take the top 10 to the final round. It resets twice at the knockout round and the championship round. Otherwise, it's, the same, 3 periods, that kind of stuff. I assume it's restricted as far as scope, power hour, that kind of stuff. I don't know for sure.
I didn't read that far into it. That I kind of read exactly what you just said as far as like where their minimums are and how many anglers we're going to kind of end up with. I didn't see anything in the description as far as off hours for scope and stuff.
Yeah. I don't know if that's just assumed or because this is qualified from last year, but did Redcrest? Yeah, Redcrest operated that way. So I assume heavy hitters. So I assume they'll still have 1 hour they can scope and 2 periods, or 1 period and then 2 periods that they can. I assume that'll be the same.
Gotcha.
Obviously they can trailer. I believe
so.
they have free runtime, and they have all that stuff will apply.
Yep.
So being that format, every fish counts, 2 pound minimum, 3 pound. Obviously, there's smallmouth, so there's large. It's predominantly largemouth at Smith Mountain Lake, but there's a solid population of fishable smallmouth, right? And they're good ones, right?
And they're pissed off and hungry post spawners right now. So
nice.
Yeah,
and there's some spots too, but they don't really play. Probably at 2 pounds or no spots.
No spots. No
okay.
spots. Yeah,
try to keep it that way.
Try to. If you catch one, toss it on the bank for me. You're definitely going to have some dudes that are going to spend some time on the smallmouth deal. There's definitely 3 pounders out that are ready to eat, chase. As far as the spawn goes, super weird Virginia spawn, dude. We had a wave early in April, got stupid cold again for a long time. And there was fish spawning when my Garmin was reading like 53, like stupid cold. And even that BFL, the double BFL we had here, I mean, I was minnow fishing in 40 feet and there was fish on beds that people were fishing for. Then we got hot, and in like 15 days, there was a massive wave. There's probably still like, I don't know, 10, 15% of the population that are going to come up, but I would not expect any of these guys are going to spend more than, I wouldn't think that they would spend any time on it. Maybe somebody runs into some, one giant one, but the thing that's throwing kind of my prediction stuff and some of the conversations I'm having with guys is we just got pounded with rain, dude. It's rained for 3 days straight. I think somebody said it was 5 inches of rain up the river, and that's going to shrink the lake a little bit. Might mess the shad spawn up a little bit in some of the areas up the rivers that usually are going to be better for the shad spawn. The lake's at full pond now, so you're talking a lot of the docks that you could have skipped a big swim bait under, or a jig, or a Nico or something like that. Like you have very little gap now on those docks. Not saying these guys can't do it, they'll do it perfectly, but a lot of stuff kind of just got thrown out the window from the last 3 days. Last 3 days of rain. And I think that's probably going to help the bite as far as like offshore or like shallow dock stuff, because we're going away from where we had really clear water, where these fish were kind of in that zombie post spawn transition back out to where I think you're going to be able to see, or these guys are going to catch some more fish shallower than I thought they would have, say, 5 days ago.
Right. So we've got some fish still finishing spawning, which, because it's a heavy hitter tournament, and every day, let's see, so the first 4 days, the biggest bass pays out a bonus $10,000 for the qualifying rounds. Right. In the knockout round, big bass pays 30 grand. And in the championship round, big bass pays 100 grand. So, and then like the winner only gets 100 grand, and second place is 25, down in like 10th place pays like, 8 grand. So basically any day you catch a big bass, it's like a top 10 money wise. Yeah. So I think from that perspective, if guys either find some fish in practice, I could see some guys the last day of practice looking for that fish, right? That Agreed. Is on a bed or a fry garter or something like that, that is a potential, 7+ pounder that they want to try to cash in on.
Yeah.
Or if somebody's struggling, right? Like, let's say they make the championship round, and they get off to a bad start. They use their scope in the morning. They're 30 pounds behind in the third period. They're like, you know what? I'm going to put my eyes down and I'm going to burn down the bank, hoping I run across a 7-8 pounder, right? Like, so I think that could be interesting, but I don't think, like, because it's every fish counts, I don't think somebody can probably catch enough fast enough to really but I could see, I don't know, late in the day, you're struggling, you're right on the bubble, maybe, a pocket. So I don't think it's going to be like a winning deal, but I think it could play.
Yeah, I could see that as a deal. My whole thought process to this is somebody going to 2-pound it to death because there's so many of them, or is somebody going to go down a shad spawn bank, this magical bank that they find, they're going to catch a 7, 3 5s, 5 3-pounders, and like they're at the same weight, and somebody else had to catch a ton of offshore fish, beat them up, and somebody just went down the right bank. I'm talking like basic fishing too. Like I bet you somebody's gonna smash them on a spinnerbait, like up in dirty water, just going down the bank, slinging a 1/2-ounce spinnerbait and getting it done. Which not my style of fishing, but like it's setting up to be kind of a generic textbook go down the bank type of fishing deal for the shad spawn. So Jim said 2-pound honey hole. Yep, those exist out here for sure.
So give people like, how big is Smith Mountain Lake? Like from dam to up the river, how far can you run?
So 22,000 acres, 500 miles of shoreline. If you dam to one of the last creeks up the Roanoke that at least I go up to, I consider like to be one of the last creeks, is Linville. 250 horsepower motor. You're talking like 22-minute run, 25-minute run. With debris and stuff, it's probably going to take the guys a little bit longer if they wanted to do a stretch like that. And then from the dam up to Ponderosa on the Blackwater side, maybe like 18 minutes, 20 minutes. So the long stretch isn't a crazy long run, but where Smith Mountain kind of is intimidating is it's a typical Highland reservoir, dude. You go into a pocket and there's 15 arms in each creek arm. And then we're a really target rich lake, meaning there's brush piles everywhere. Really good rock veins on the lower end, like mid-lake area. You've got standing
zillion docks.
You've got standing timber out in 35 to 60 feet. You've got
sections where there's trees in the water, laydowns.
Yep, massive laydowns up the river. All of that stuff. Like it's honestly, this is the part that I'm excited about. I want to follow a couple of the guys that I kind of look up to, but I want to see what the spread is. On if it's 15 guys a day, the lake's not going to get crazy beat up by these guys or anything. Are you going to have 10 dudes that stay down lake fishing smallmouth and one random guy that ran way up past the debris to throw a spinnerbait? Or like, how is the spread going to be? That's what I'm kind of interested in to see how these guys kind of break it down. But I think it's just going to be a toss up on a 2-pound honey hole versus somebody finds 2 or 3 really good shad spawn banks and just strokes them in the first 2 hours.
Yeah. So shad spawn, for the most part, happening first thing, right?
Yeah. Do you think what time on there, Rich? What time they start?
7:45 competition start. They can get on the water at 7:30. They can't make first cast till 7:45.
Okay. Might be a little late. If we have cloud cover, it'll obviously last a little bit longer, and of course they can hit the shade lines, but that's probably on the tail end of it in the morning.
Okay. So that being said, it kind of feels like most guys are going to scope first period if they're going to do it. I was thinking if the shad spawn started earlier, could you get on a strong enough shad spawn bite to not want to scope and then save your scope for second or third period? But with them not starting till TV time, that probably is going to, most of your Drew Gills and those guys are probably going to choose to scope first period, I would bet.
Yeah. I would say that, or the opposite. I would say they're going to save it for third. And I guess this would be if these guys kind of figure out the bite window here. But like that shad spawn deal, at least what I have learned living here is that there's definitely a weird lull from like 10 o'clock in the morning to like 12:30, 1 o'clock, where I think they're just so full from eating all night and eating in the morning that they're just like, we're just going to take a break. And then there's an interesting like bite window at like 12:30 to like 4. And then it kind of dies down to dusk. So I'd be interested to see if some of those guys save it as a last ditch kind of third period, offshore schoolie type stuff. I'm also kind of interested too. And, I've been talking to a couple guys, like I said today, that were already out there and kind of seeing where the guys are, is how far offshore these guys look, and kind of break it down too. Cause like I mentioned, we have standing timber here and we have herring. So a lot of these guys, a a lot of these guys might be a lot further out than a lot of the people think bass live on this lake. So I'm kind of interested to see how those guys
So
break that piece
is
down.
the herring, have they been around for 20 years, or is it a newer thing? Is it emerging herring, or?
I think it's emerging. In the 5 years that I've like heavily fished it, it sure feels like they don't spend that much time on the bank anymore. And it sure seems like there's bait that likes to hang out over 100 feet suspended. So I think it's definitely turning more herring pretty quick. And you can kind of see just generic stuff like, red clay flats that are super long with bait on the end. That's typical blueback type stuff and fish blowing up. So I wouldn't say it's like, hey, only go throw like blueback bait type Hartwell situation, but I think there'll be dudes that definitely have herring baits on for sure.
Yeah, but so I mean, do you get to the point where you do have a strong like herring spawn bite?
Yeah,
Or is that not?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's more thread fin right now, like the whole typical like up on the bank type deal. But yeah, the blueback stuff's, I don't know. It takes a little bit to find the right points, but it's starting to be more points for sure. Like a lot more from when you came.
Yeah, I don't remember you telling me anything about herring when I was there. So
yeah. I don't know where they came from, dude. I don't know if the striper guys bring them back or like they just, like you said, emerging. Like they just eventually, once they're in there, it just takes them, X amount of years to kind of.
They're finally reaching critical mass.
Yeah, basically. So
interesting. So I feel like they're going to be pretty spread out. Like I feel like if you go there as a spectator in person, you're going to have to drive around a while before you. Unless there's like a key area where like Conroe this more earlier in the year, right, where like 10 of the boats or 20 of the boats were all in the same like arm or something. So I mean that could happen, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think so. And I think going back to the rain, man, I think the rain might kill above the bridge and like pretty high up in the Blackwater just because it might be chocolate milk. But also with it being shad spawn time, like if the shad stick around, the bass aren't going to give a crap. If anything, it might even be, yeah, exactly what Randy's talking about. Like it might be a situation where you put on a 7-blade, like a big old spinnerbait, and just go down the bank up in the mud and smash on them. But then you're going to have guys like, obviously I'm going to go try to find Wheeler a little bit. I want to see if he's doing any sort of like weird offshore deal. I want to follow Shin around, see if he's doing anything.
Drew Gill.
Drew Gill, 100%. I'm interested in seeing what Lucas has to kind of throw at it and see if it's kind of a swim bait deal or the drop shot's kind of hot and heavy. So, but again, looking at the payout stuff too, Rich, like if it was you or me fishing, dude, I'd just be throwing a giant bait for 5 days straight. Like if they're paying out 10 grand a day, and even if
but you also have to advance.
Well, yeah,
right. Like, so
yeah, I guess it's going to be like a total like hodgepodge kind of day. But yeah, with you, like, dude, if you make championship day and it's second round and you're 30 pounds behind, do you just not pick up a 10, 12-inch worm and a giant glide bait and just throw at floaters and rock veins all day and see if an 8-pounder moved up? Like that's where I would probably go. But watch it get like, and somebody catches an 8-pounder on a dead rig or something probably.
So I guess before we get to that, so like is Keith Boucher is in the field. Is there anything that Keith, you think this lake sets up where he can do anything wild?
Like jump dams?
I don't know. Yeah. Like, can he go out further than other people with this water coming in? Like, is there anything that we should be watching for on the Boucher watch?
That's an unknown for me. So Explorers Park is what the park is referred to way up the Roanoke, which is like a, nature center park. I have never taken my boat up that far. But once you go up past this place called Hardy and up and around, you turn into Explorers Park, and it turns into basically 2 to 5 foot deep, very skinny river, massive boulders everywhere. Something where I don't think any. Is he in an aluminum boat or two or no?
Yep.
Yeah. Maybe he figures out to try to run up there. I have never fished up there except for off the bank when I'm like walking with friends and family and stuff like that. But I definitely know there's bass up there. I don't know that there's a population of bass up there though.
Randy doesn't recommend it. I would almost promise you that Keith OShea is going up there one day of practice for sure.
Yeah.
Challenge accepted.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, there's some sneaky stuff way up past Hardy, but it's it's bluff wall. It's think like Mississippi River bluff wall stuff. I mean, it's sheer wall type stuff, and a couple little indents and kind of nipples and creek arms to kind of look at. But yeah, it would be crazy if like he goes up there and chucks a square bill and a spinnerbait and strokes them all. Like that would be something out of left field that I never would have thought of.
No. Yeah. So yeah, we'll find out if you and your buddies are going to learn anything about your favorite lake with these guys.
Yeah. I think I will, dude. I think I'm going to see something. I think I'm going to see something interesting. I want to, we can jump to baits if you want, but like that's kind of one thing I'm kind of excited for. Obviously, these guys are just the best. That's where I can see fall off. It's obviously they're eating really good right now. We just got a ton of rain. There's been no pressure. It's the middle of the week, like low pressure system, all that. Saturday is calling for sun, and then it's basically sunny till Wednesday. So all these offshore schoolie fish that are super easy to get to bite right now because they're right at post spawn, super hungry. Nobody's hitting on them.
A little bit of dinge in the water,
a little bit of color, a little bit of wind, and then all of a sudden these guys are going to hit slick calm 11 a.m. fishing at schoolers that
party boat central, people all over the lake, not necessarily fishing, but just right. Like,
yep. So I could see a couple dudes are going to struggle on the offshore deal, but from my selfish perspective too, like I want to see what these guys do in that situation. Because there's little tricks that I have for guiding and stuff, but that's for 2.5 to 4 pounders, not for 8 pounders. To see if they show me something that I haven't thought of or haven't tried. So,
yeah. So I mean, the winner, right? Like the person that advances through 6 days and catches, 20, 30, 40, 3 or what? I don't know, probably. I don't know, 15 to 20 some 3-pounders, right? On the last day.
Yep.
Do you think that's an offshore thing?
I think it's going to be a mix of offshore. Let's say they catch 30 bass on the final day. I would say 15.
I remember they have to be 3-pounders.
Yeah. I would say half come off docks, half come offshore.
Okay.
So, and when I say offshore, I don't think, again, I haven't been out in 5 days and they were kind of getting there, but I'm thinking it's more like that like 6 to 14 foot range, not 20 to 40, as far as the offshore stuff goes. But I could be surprised too. Like a couple of the guys that I talked to today said they saw boats like in BFE throwing a minnow. So maybe some of these guys are finding some fish that are way, way, way out. So. They're fishing from league-issued boats.
Yeah, league-issued boats. So I don't know if you've seen people out there, but they're going to be running MLF wraps in the tournament.
Huh.
And it's scope all day, though, I think he said.
And it's forward-facing allowed all day, not? Is that a Borat joke? Nah.
I think he's saying...
Type it back in, Jason. I know what Jason would be throwing, Rich.
Yeah, there's no restriction on how much they can utilize the forward-facing sonar during heavy hitters.
There you go.
Well, the technology on those boats is limited, and it might be different than what they're used to running.
Limited?
Like, because I don't know if they're equipped with Garmin's or active targets.
Gotcha.
But they're going to have, it'd be funny is if they sent them out there with those new, like, Eagle 9s, and then that's what they...
Just a little test subject on the
Yeah.
15 guys, on the 30 guys.
So they're only going to have one unit, and it's probably going to be I don't know if that's a 9-inch or a 10-inch.
I'd say probably.
I guess that'll be.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Okay, so then again, I don't even know if you would know this answer. So if they're in MLF boats, then are they allowed to trailer? Like, I guess they take the boat back to where they're staying, swap tackle over, and then go launch wherever, and then bring it back, I guess.
I think so.
Interesting. I saw where their like service yard's going to be today, but I didn't see any like MLF wrap boats or anything like that. So
yeah, it'd be interesting if they were practicing from
MLF boats.
Yeah, or not.
No, they're not. Like I talked to a buddy that saw Nick Hatfield, Drew Gill, Lucas Ayler, and they're all in their boats. So, well, that's kind of mean of MLF. They make them drive their whole rig up just to slap them in a 19-footer. Well, that'll be interesting and very super annoying for me to try to be able to find who I want to watch.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll be wearing like
their jerseys,
MLF shirt or their jerseys, or if they'll be like. So yeah, the plot thickens.
Right. Everyone's like, just watch live. You know every bank. I was like, yeah, true, but like they're gonna throw their baits back in the water and all that crap. I was like,
yeah, Atafo did not make it. So I mean, you've got Matt Becker, Cliff Crochet, who's fishing the opens now, so he qualified, but he's not fishing MLF.
Yeah.
Mark Daniels Jr., Ed Weavers, Drew Gill, Nick Hatfield, Dylan Hayes, Elton Jones Jr., Dave Lefebvre, Andy Morgan, Michael Neal, Fred Rambanis. Fred probably fished some of those old Smith Mountain Lake tournaments back in the day.
Yeah. I wonder if
you got Jeff Snag
on the elites. Alton Sr. was on the elites.
Britt Myers probably was.
Yep.
You got Wheeler fishing, Zach Burge, Luke Clausen, Dustin Cannell, Brent Ayler, Cole Floyd, Shin Fukai, Bobby Lane, Nick LeBrun, Justin Lucas, Britt Myers, Keith Boucher, Marshall Robinson, who's probably Matt Steffen, Jonathan Van Dam, and Martin Villa, which I believe Martin Villa is from kind of that region and probably has some experience out there.
Yeah, I think he's Charlottesville. Andy Morgan's an interesting one for the shad spawn. He's Norman, right?
Well, that means probably Keith Boucher's probably not going to be doing Keith Boucher things if he's fishing out of a provided boat. Yep, he's probably not going up where we talked about.
Send it. If he listens to this, just send it, Keith. Who cares?
Yeah.
There's nothing up there.
What are they going to do?
Yeah, what are they going to do? Andy Morgan's Lake Norman guy, isn't he?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I think in Montgomery.
Andy Montgomery is the lake, and he's not fishing it.
Gotcha.
Andy Morgan is more like from East Tennessee type thing.
Yeah, I would say on that roster, I mean, I skimmed the roster too. The dot guys will be dangerous. Anybody that knows the herring deal, I would say, is probably going to be pretty dangerous. And then anybody that's a big bait, like a big bait chucker, could be dangerous for the actual big bass deal. And then again, you made fun of me when we first started, but I'm a JDM guy, so I'll probably follow Shin around because he's going to throw some weird bait that I've never seen before that will get the school ignited. So,
it looks like they have 5 approved ramps. They can go to Oak Grove, Scruggs number 8, Smith Mountain State Park, Anthony Ford number 4, or Penhook number 9.
Interesting. Okay, they didn't do Parkway. Huh.
And then they have to they pick up their marshals at Trinity Unicinal Parish.
Yeah, that's a staging area. I was hoping you were going to say Bojangles.
Get some biscuits.
Just to keep it traditionally Southern. Some bow rounds. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So
that Martin guy, I don't know that guy.
So you think it's going to be kind of balanced? You're going to see some guys fishing shallow, uh, up the rivers. You see some guys fishing shad spawn, boat docks, mid-range stuff, and you're going to see guys out pelagic, roamers, and everything
Yep.
in between.
Yeah, I think that's what I was saying at the beginning. Like, I know we just had like a buzzer beater just the other week. Like, it could kind of set up the same way. I mean, if you got two guys that are, let's say, final day ends up being like post fronty, because I think Wednesday's a little weather coming in, and the weather, man's terrible here. But let's say Thursday ends up being kind of grimy, post fronty, grindy, and none of the shad spawn stuff's working, or the big, there's enough pressure going on from just locals and everything else at that point that you got two guys duking it out on schoolies down to the wire. Could be kind of
assuming the equipment they're given in these league provided boats is adequate, I think Drew Gill's going to be a handful in this tournament.
Same. Nico them to death is what the conversations have gone with my buddies. So, yeah, I could see him. Like I said, though, there's, I don't know that necessarily 100% like a mag draft or a coal shad bite type deal is still going on. But again, with the water getting stained up and stuff, they might push up to where, that's where I'm saying, like, I could see Lucas slinging around a 6-inch coal shad for a good portion of the day, and a good portion of the day, and getting them going. The other thing too with the schooling bite and choosing, well, no, they're getting live scope all day. Gosh, dude, yeah, it's going to be super weird, because how are these guys going to dictate moving forward, going for a big one, making sure they got enough weight? Because there is enough schools for these guys to split. They probably won't be on top of each other that bad. I think a little bit, but I think we're going to see these dudes have a lot of rods on the deck, just because they're doing two different things.
Sure.
So, but like I said, the way fishing works in Murphy's Law or whatever, dude, I could tell you go throw a 10-inch glide bait, watch somebody catch an 8-pounder on a Ned rig.
So do you think there's anything like this? Because there's a potential pitfall, like a bite that they're going to find, or they could get a clue on that could lead them astray and be like, like kind of fulfilling the title of my video of like why anglers will fail. Like what are some things that could trip people up at Smith Mountain?
The schools, like 100%. The most frustrating thing that happens to me with guiding is I go beat my schools up for 4 days straight, take a day off, go back the next day. You're talking 25 fish days in 8 hours, and I catch 4 bites the next trip, just because they're so beat up and like the weather's not right. They've seen 100 different presentations from top to bottom. I think that's where these guys are probably going to have to adjust to the dock bite, but the dock stuff's probably not even weather dependent. It's just going to stay. It's just how you present baits and what you're going to do. The shad spawn deal, I think these guys have to give the shad spawn a try for an hour. I just think you got to do it with the size of fish that are in here. So if it was one thing where I would be like, oh my God, that sucks, would be like a Drew Gill situation where he smashes them all of his periods on the first day of knockout, and then championship day, it just never fires off. Would be my like, oh God, type situation. So, but I think these guys, go ahead.
Or you manage your school in group 1, and then 2 other guys just sit on your fish and just obliterate them right on your off day.
Yep, that is exactly what I could see happening. So, I mean, dude, Smith, when you were here, and you and I've talked about this before, Smith Mountain's, in my opinion, I mean, I fish Lake Norman a lot. I fished a lot of the like High Rock chain. I fish bugs a decent amount. Like Smith Mountain fish are notorious for like, oh, they're going to eat the hell out of a 3-3 swim bait for 2 days straight, and then you do not get a bite on it the next day. Like 0 bites on it. And I know these guys will obviously know how to adjust. It's going to just be who's quick enough on it. But that's the type of stuff with the school stuff where, yeah, you're catching them on a popper. The next day they don't want it. They want a walking bait. The next day they want a fluke. Like it's never really a like, this is the condition. Like I've kind of gotten away from like fish the condition out here specifically, and more just like you have to test stuff every day just to kind of see what's up. So yeah, you could have guys beat your hole up for 3 days, and then you go out there and you think you're supposed to throw a swim bait because that's what worked 24 hours ago, 48 hours ago. And these fish are like, nope, I'm not interested in any of that anymore. So,
yeah. So with the 2 pound minimum, do you see like, is there like a lot of like 1.8, 1.12, 1.14s, or is like catching 2 pounders going to be not a problem?
245s to like 280s are everywhere. Yeah, everywhere.
Okay.
I could see that 3 pound deal kind of being a like
right, where people are like, I'm catching 2.12s, 2.13s, 2.15s, but like a 3.1 is like,
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I could see that also being a struggle bus too, especially on the school stuff. If they've been beat up for 5 days straight, then you're talking. That's where a Drew Gill situation comes into play. Yeah, you take a Nico rig and go. You're still close to probably where those schoolies are, but the ones that were smart enough to realize that they're getting pounded on, maybe they drop back to a couple of the docks or whatever and go there. One bait that I don't throw a lot, but I definitely think is going to play a lot is probably a Carolina rig for when it gets kind of grimy and annoying. There's definitely some big fish that like eating a Carolina rig in this month. They're just kind of like a couple week span. So.
Yeah. And I can see maybe, right, if somebody can advance and get to the final round, right, and maybe that's where the shallow, right,
Sure.
like plays somebody that can get on a shad spawn, or you can use your free run time to get up the river, maybe with the narrower river, taller banks, longer shade lines, right, like where you don't need to catch 30 fish on the last day, maybe 10, 12 3-pounders is enough because it's hard to get a 3-pound bite down the lake on I don't know. So it might be interesting.
Yeah. And so the other thing too, like I can look at, we don't have a pull schedule here. So even though we have a dam, like we're a push pull dam. So they're going to do whatever they want to basically worry about the dock owners. Is they may suck the bottom out of this place and that water from up the river starts clearing. And then you have like mid lake that's going to have the junk. And then, yeah, I could see somebody like Keith or, Michael Neal or some of these guys like going way up past the mud line, and those fish haven't been hit for 4 days.
Sure.
And getting on something like that. So, yeah, I mean, dude, they're already dropping it. We were full pond at 8:30 this morning, and they're dropping it at almost a half a foot an hour. So that will get some stuff moving, and they don't, what's today, Wednesday? They don't start for 2 more days. So yeah, maybe by next Wednesday, there's enough clarity up the river that you go up there and it almost fishes like it hasn't been fished at all.
So. Yeah. Or just somebody like squeaks in, they don't have a lot going and they're like, we're going up the river. We're going to try it. Right. And they land on them. So,
for sure. I mean, yeah, dude, it's going to be so weird to like, it's going to be so weird to see, like the final day. Like, yeah, do you go throw a 2.8 Kitech all day to try to win $100 grand that way? Or do you go stick a big bait in your hand? Because you're not gonna win the big bass throwing a minnow or like a minnow, or you could probably get it done on a shaky head if you got a horseshoe up your ass. But I think it's probably going to be, a bigger bait or a shad spawn deal to win the actual like big bass portion of it. So it'll just be interesting to see like how these 10 guys kind of analyze it. It'd be stressful, dude. It's stressing me out, and I'm not even fishing it.
So like you've been talking a lot about like the 2.8s and that kind of stuff. Do you throw the big minnows out there, like the 7-8 inch Takamadas and that kind of stuff? Or
yeah, I did in the winter a lot, and definitely got some bites. I mean, a lot of the striper guides, man, that's literally all they're doing. They're doing a 3/4 ounce or an ounce head with a fluke on it. They're just dropping it straight down into 50 feet and ripping it up past stripers. And like I said, dude, every once in a while I'll see a striper guy be like, we had a hell of a week. And they're holding like a 5-pound smallmouth that a client caught and like a 7-pounder. And you're just like, oh, okay, that's how easy it is. You just go drop straight down through 100 fish on live scope and hope that a bass grabs it.
Sounds like lake trout fishing in the
ice. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is like there's no way to target a specific bass like that with how fast those schools are moving and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I could see somebody chucking a bigger minnow and maybe getting some bites. But yeah, I mean, my prediction, man, is somebody gets it on a shad spawn deal on a cloudy morning or one of these super early mornings on a shade line, and then it's going to be a decent amount of finesse fishing.
Does the frog play at all with this water being dirty anywhere?
Up the river. Yeah, you got kind of got like the washout deal, like overhanging trees. You probably got like 3 foot of overhang, 3 foot of overhang type stuff. Under docks, sure. I mean, there's fry garters and stuff under the docks.
Bluegill spawn's probably still happening, right?
Starting heavy. Yeah, I guess that's one thing we haven't really talked about is, you definitely could see. I could see somebody, to go back to your point, like, day 3, instead of somebody trying to look for a bed, they find a cruiser right around some brim beds that they can come back to and chuck a Senko at, or a frog or something like that. The kind of the fry guarding deal, that's another interesting thing with live scope. I don't know how much you do it at home, but here it's blatantly obvious now on an LVS 34. Like, I was fun fishing after a trip last week, and I was like, okay, I got 40 minutes. Trolling motor on 9, scan the dock, nothing, scan a dock, nothing, scan a dock, boom, little cloud, just move it enough to where you see something in the middle, drop shot straight into the middle of the fry guard and catch a 2-pounder. And so it'll be interesting to see if you see somebody that's got that, that urgency to them as well, of like skipping this one, finding that one that's got fry garters on it. Those fish are frustrating though too, man. I mean, you can sit on a fry guard ball and throw 12 different baits and get them to follow stuff all the way back to the boat, but be interested to see if these guys can get that done. This is what I would throw at a fry garter.
The Koike? Is that the full cast or the 26 millimeter or the
17th full cast? What a weird world.
So you've not caught a fish on that, have you?
I literally just got them today.
Yeah.
I turned them to, I showed Taylor, I was like, hey, I feel like I'm struggling, so I bought these, and she's literally like, what the F? We'll see. I don't even know how to rig it, dude. So
I think people put them on like baby, or like basically a little jicka rig is kind of the big thing.
I mean, I was thinking free rig with just the right hook, because these things are supposed to float. But so again, going back to like people, like I want to see these guys break down schoolers after they get beat up for 4 days straight, and I'm interested to see if anybody's throwing something stupid and weird like this out there on schoolers.
Mm-hmm.
So
dice, weird stuff.
Yep.
So actually, I have a question for you, but I want to take a super quick break, and then I want to. Maybe I'll ask the question before the break, and then you can have a minute to think about it.
Ooh, okay.
And then we'll come back. So, Billy, you've made the final round. It's halfway through the second period on the championship round. You are 47 pounds behind Drew Gill.
I can make it up.
What swim bait or glide bait are you throwing the rest of the day to catch that big one? So let's answer that back in 60 seconds.
Okay, sounds good.
Are you ready to reel in your next home purchase or refinance? Supreme Lending's Dream Team can help guide you through the entire mortgage process, from pre-qualification to closing. We have a wide variety of home loan programs in our tackle box, including down payment assistance and first-time homebuyer options. You can ask HellaBass. He trusted us to help finance his home. Contact the Dream Team today by searching Supreme Lending Dream Team or click the link below in the description or scan the QR code on your screen.
Yeah, so I mean, somebody that probably catches an 8-pounder might need the services of the Dream Team when they get their new vacation home on Smith Mountain Lake.
That's correct. That's correct.
So, what's the ultimate big bait bite that what are you going to lock in with, or maybe the two baits?
Yeah, I would go. I would probably go a glide bait right now. It's just because we're in fry guarding season. So I would go with a fish everything like a TS7, and then
which is not a huge bait.
Nope,
it's very modest size. I just gave one of those away to one of the people on the show in our St. Jude fundraiser.
Yep.
So there you go, Brian. Get excited. The TS7, which you now own.
Yep. Hell yeah. Yeah, just a good like all around like, that's gonna catch. Honestly, that's gonna catch 3 pounders.
This is the Spro, but the TS7 is basically the same size as this. So
yeah. It's gonna catch you 3 pounders. And it will catch you an 8-pounder, for sure. What do we got there? Ooh,
Randy says the Nessie.
Potentially, I like the Raid more than the Nessie, but that's just a.
Well, that's because you're a bougie JDM guy, obviously.
So I would say that, or. Honestly, and this might be a little bit early, but maybe it's going on. I have one tied on to fun fish tomorrow. I would be throwing like a 13-inch worm. I'd be throwing something like
old monster. Yeah.
Bigger, something bigger that you can find, like just a giant worm and some brush and probably like 8 to 12. Something where the big girl moved out. She's done fry garden. She's recouped. She's ready to eat. And yeah, I'd put it on a Texas rig and just launch out just a mega worm. That's usually like a mid-June, late June, but you never know, dude.
I was kind of disappointed. I thought you were going to tell me like a Hinkle or some, greenleaf.
Did I tell you
something big? Some big bait.
No, did I tell you? I mean, I got my 10-inch glides too, but did I tell you my Hinkle story?
Mm-mm.
I bought a Hinkle that I was going to flip. I wasn't going to throw it because I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to snap this off. Like this is a whole day's worth of work, and I'm just going to snap it off. And so my wife saw when I was trying to flip it. We were sitting on the couch here watching TV, and somebody was messaging me about what they wanted to offer, and it was like, I don't know, $700 or something. And she just glanced at it, and she saw that I had a bait that I paid $500 for, and she was like, we have a baby on the way, like all this sort of like.
It's an investment.
100%, dude. I flipped it to a guy in New Hampshire for $900. So. And I was like, you know what? That's the last Hinkle deal I'm gonna do. I'm gonna leave it as a net positive. So
interesting.
Who's your who are you going for?
Like who am I picking to win?
Yeah, do you do fantasy for this stuff too, or just for elites?
I do. I did fill out a fantasy team. Well, it's you pick half the freaking field in this.
Field, yep.
You get 10 anglers. There's 30 of them, right? Like, let's see.
What's your gut?
I mean, I'm concerned that this is Drew Gill's playground. We're just all living in it when it comes to being able to scope all day. The 10 anglers I picked: Matt Becker, Drew Gill, Elton Jones Jr., Michael Neal, Wheeler in the one flight, and the other one, Burge, Cannell, Ayler, Lucas, and Martin Villa.
Okay.
So I got Burge. balance it out if somebody's going to look shallow, but a lot of these guys are offshore finesse guys.
Yeah.
One guy with some local knowledge. So,
where's Gill from? Alabama?
Mount Carmel, Illinois. The hotbed of bass fishing.
Yeah, that pond fishing county in Illinois. Interesting. The big old jelly.
So there's some advice here. Tim Maynard says you should sea rig your koiki.
Yep.
That's different. And then short crotch, which is an interesting name. Rig it on a drop shot with a crazy long weight leader.
Short crotch, is that the rig style?
I don't know. That's just his username.
Yeah. Well, if I come up with a new rigging technique, I'll name it the short crotch. How about that?
There you go. Parker says you have a good YouTube channel. Bill, you still posting on the YouTubes?
Bro. Young kid. Trying to keep everything rolling.
Spotty?
Got a lot going on. Pretty spotty. Yeah, pretty spotty. Trying to keep up on Instagram. But honestly, dude, I'm just trying to make sure Charlotte's having the time of her life. So.
Nice. Wheeler's actually from Indiana, but McKinney and Gill are both from Illinois.
Yeah.
Pretty sure Jacob Wheeler grew up around Indianapolis somewhere.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. They're kind of all in that like weird non-bassy area. But I guess
that just means like if you grow up bass fishing there, you love bass fishing because you don't actually catch them that well. So like you really learn that you really like fishing, not just catching, you actually enjoy fishing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay. See what else is
what's your thoughts on I haven't really sat down and done the math. What's like and I don't follow MLF as much as I probably should, but like what's what would be a total weight for the day where you would be like Smith Mountain showing out compared to some of these other tournaments that MLF has done?
Like for a leading weight or a cut weight or
leading weight. Like day one, somebody caught X amount of weight and then people are like, holy crap, that was amazing. Like
I think in the BPT format, you probably have to flirt with 100 pounds before people really start to like raise an eyebrow, like compared to like Gunnersville or Conroe or these other lakes when you hit them good.
Yep. Okay. What about big ones? You think 3 7-pounders a day is a big deal? Not really.
I mean, I think people would take notice.
Sure.
I think anything over 8 as the heavy hitter bass. I mean, like they go to lakes, right? Like heavy hitter has happened on like Bussy Break in those Louisiana lakes, and it took like a freaking like 11-pounder or whatever, or Randy Hobb, right. And then like they've been to, I don't remember if it was Toho or Harris Chain or whatever. They went there in the summer and they caught some giants. Like it took 8 and 9-pounders to win down there every day. So this is definitely the most northern fishery they've hit heavy hitters. So kind of back to you kind of alluded to this early on, and we kind of talked about this when we were out fishing. Like you kind of like your little sanctuary, and part of you wants it to be on the map because it's cool and you want tournaments to come, but part of you doesn't want all the notoriety and pressure. So like, do you want it to show out at this point, or do you want it to just be okay? Like what's the best case scenario for Billy Kohls?
Oh man, I don't know, dude. I have fought with this since it was kind of like said. I mean, I run a business, man. So do I want it to show out? Sure. Like mildly, medium hot. Most people know, like you said, North Carolina, like basically the tri-state area, everybody knows Smith Mountain. Like it's not a super huge hidden secret that it's kicking out bigs and it's managed well and all that. From like a national like perspective, or let's just even say like the Southeast, I think it would have to show up pretty hard for dudes to be like, I'm going to drive from Alabama to come check out Smith Mountain and stuff like that. So yeah, part of me is like, I would love for it to show off that we have a healthy fishery of 2 to 4 pounders, good numbers. I don't necessarily, I wouldn't be super pumped if all of a sudden we're seeing like, you know, somebody's, but I don't even think this is even possible, but of course now it's probably possible, is like, you know, one guy finds that right bank, catches 2 8s, a 7, 3 6s, and it's like all of a sudden people are like, oh my God, Smith Mountain Lake's the best lake in 7 states because some guy
like
caught a
Sharon Harris, Jordan, like
yeah, like all of a sudden it's just like, holy hell, Smith Mountain has giant ones everywhere. And then the only part that's like probably going to sting me a little bit is like I'm about to start guiding pretty heavy after they're done is the schoolie fish aren't that hard to find. You just got to spend time on the water. Is they're going to beat the piss out of them. So it's probably just going to make me have to adjust a little bit. This is just my selfish, like internal thoughts of like, I'll probably have to switch back to little dock fishing or kind of changing my perspective and approach a little bit for a couple weeks while it cools off. But I mean, dude, I want people to come here and enjoy this lake. It is big enough for 30 guys. It's not even probably going to do that much. It's probably just going to be more of like the people that are going to utilize them to find where these schools are and stuff. But that's fine, dude. That's part of the draw. That's part of the fishing. That's what MLF's supposed to do. They're supposed to show off these lakes and advertise that they're good fisheries and that the local communities got it going on and kind of do it that way. I mean, dude, I love it here. I want this lake to grow. I want people to check it out. I want people to come down here to just enjoy the lake. And I think it'll be fine after a couple weeks. So,
yeah, I mean, like Smith Mountain is not close to like a big city, right? Like it's
no, you're on vacation.
You kind of got some medium sized like Brainerd type towns around there, right? But like there's no like Minneapolis, Dallas, you're ways away from Washington. Like,
yep. Yeah,
it's kind of like
too
going up north, right? Like in Minnesota,
yeah.
You're kind of getting out of town when you go to Smith Mountain.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, my sister came to visit last year and we had a cabin in Park Rapids growing up. And she literally, the first time she came, she said, I don't think you realize this, but you moved to Park Rapids. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess I kind of realized that, like 15 minutes from the grocery store, like a little movie theater, like a main street kind of drag or whatever. Like that's kind of how it sets up. You know, and then you're 45 minutes from like Lynchburg or Roanoke. It's 45 minutes to Bemidji. Like it's kind of that same exact set from what I grew up in Minnesota. But yeah, I mean, if you're coming to this lake, you're in vacation mode. This isn't I'm going to drive to Smith Mountain to fish for a day. Like you're going to be here you're going to want to make a trip for 3 to 5 days for sure.
I don't know. I drove the Outer Banks for one day.
I was going to say, in your case, you guys drove 6. So that was a fun day.
So that being said, like if people like tune into heavy hitters and they're like, this does look like a place I want to go fishing, and they want to get a hold of you, what's the process or what's the best way?
Yeah. Super easy URL, man. I own smithmountainlakefishing.com. So honestly, if you Googled that exact phrase, I'm going to be the first one that comes up. I specialize in largemouth and smallmouth. I can do some striper trips. I got plenty of other kind of striper guides that I can send you out with, but that's the best way to get a hold of me. Instagram, YouTube, all that sort of stuff. I do a fishing report every month. So for somebody that's not sure if they want to come, they can check out the report. I'm brutally honest on if the fishing's great, crappy, on the upswing. Like I'm a pretty honest dude. I don't want to take your money just to go for a boat ride. I want you guys to catch fish. So yeah, just kind of get with me that way and we'll get you on the water.
Nice. Yeah. I had a good time. Pat and I, we caught fish. It was not the greatest bite when we were there, but we caught some stripers. We caught bass. We did all right. Caught some nice fish after driving 6 hours back and forth. So yeah, I would highly recommend. I put a link down in the description if you're in the replay. And And I think you can look up Billy if there's a bite that you want to get on. He could probably tell you the time of year to come. Like if you want to fish swim baits or Billy's pretty strong with electronics and the old live scope. So if you want like some on the water electronic stuff, he's definitely a good guy for that as well. Yeah. But I do think overall, I think this is going to be an interesting tournament to watch and what the anglers do with a fairly big playing field for 15, 16 boats at a time. A 6-day tournament, a lot like you talked about, like this time of year, right? We got fish finishing spawning, we got bluegill starting, we've got shad spawns, potentially maybe some herring spawns, right? We've got muddy water going through the system. You've got, warming and cooling. Like there's a lot of things going on. And then what the anglers do, whether they're chasing the cuts or trying to win rounds or trying to catch big, like it should be a really fun event to follow.
Do you think somebody's going to win both?
I don't think. I'm trying to think. Like, I don't know that anybody's won both in heavy hitters yet.
Okay.
Like they might have won a round, but I don't think anybody's won the final day and the final day big bass.
Yeah, that would be pretty crazy. I mean, I feel like it would obviously it's going to be a one fish type situation, but I could see that being super exciting in the form of like someone cracks a giant one and then goes and offshores it to death, and gets that.
Or on the flip side, they get out to such a big lead that they're like, oh, I'm either going to go scope around brush piles and look for a blimp, or I'm going to go throw whatever, right? Like chase the big bite.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be cool for Smith Mountain to kind of end up being that way. Would be interesting. So you gonna watch it on live?
I'll probably check in, right? I mean, the thing I do like now the new BBT where they've gone to 4 days, because like those 6-day events are just they're marathons. Like that's a lot of time to be watching live and following an event for 8 hours a day, right? So I'll follow it, and peek in on it, but like I can't say that I'm going to commit to 48 hours of live fishing in the next week.
Yeah. Did they
probably not?
Did they house that lot? Do they house the live on MLF
the replays?
after the fact?
I think the replays. I don't think they put them on YouTube. I think they put them on their MLF channel, and you have to go like into their archives and watch them. I think.
Gotcha. But like, if I don't watch a day, I can actually go back and watch a full day.
I believe you can watch the replay on Major League Fishing.
7:30 to 2. Is that how they work out?
It's later than that.
Is it? Interesting.
It's 7:45 to 3:45.
Yeesh.
And they have 15-minute breaks between period 1, period 2, and period 2, period 3. So it goes 7:45 to 10:15, 10:30 to 1, and then 1:15 to 3:45.
Mark my words, I do feel confident in saying this. We'll see a weird bite window deal where you'll see dudes will start smashing them in that third period for sure.
So you're saying like if you're not gonna watch live, skip the second period is what Billy says.
That's what I would do. I would say
like if you're gonna cram your work in, get it done between 10 and 1.
Yeah, skip your lunch break and eat at your desk and crank it out. But yeah, I'm pretty confident we'll see something. Somebody will have a big push in the third period every day.
Nice.
So
that's kind words, Parker.
Parker Gross Space, huh?
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
If you need some medicinal things, he might be able to help you out based on his avatar there.
Yeah. We'll tell you what, dude. One thing I didn't mention to you, I don't know if you saw me rolling a towel on my back. I got a bulging disc for the first time in my life.
Does it make sitting in a chair super comfortable?
Super comfortable. And guess what my physical therapist thinks it's from?
Live scoping.
He thinks it's from live scoping. I was like, okay, do I get a doctor's note then?
Randy says the midday is fire right now. So there you go.
Randy. He's probably talking Beaver Dam. Spinnerbait Beaver Dam.
Right on. Well, I think we covered all there is to talk about heavy hitters in Smith Mountain. I think Saturday you can start watching this unfold. I think I'm going to try to catch the end of the Wolves game. They're leading by 7, looking to knock out the Warriors here. So that's cool.
Sweet.
Let you get some rest. You can stand up, stretch your back, do your PT, so you can go fun fishing tomorrow.
You want me to text you a picture when I catch a 9-pounder on this thing or not?
Please do. Yeah, I'd like. Yeah.
And then find one of the guys out there and ask them to take my picture.
Can you? I don't have. You just lie to him. Be like, I don't have a scale. Do you have a scale in your boat? Can you weigh this?
Do you have one of them Bubbas?
Yeah, I see you guys on TV. You got those Bubba scales. You got one of those handy?
Oh shoot! Yeah. No, I'm excited, dude. I hope it goes well. I think it's gonna be an interesting one, and I think it's could be like a buzzer beater, which makes it fun to watch.
Yeah, some of these opening rounds, unpressured, right?
Yep.
What do you think the leaders are going to put up in a day, knowing they can scope all day and it's a 2-pound minimum? Like if you were fishing, what would you be shooting for if you were trying to win a round based on what you know about the lake?
60 to 70 pounds, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So catching 25 to 30 2-pound plus keepers with some 3 and 4 pounders mixed in.
Yeah. The best day I have ever had guiding here was August of last year, which was 52 fish in an 8-hour period. Most of my guide trips, I'm going for 10 opportunities for them to catch, but it's not late May through like mid-June is probably the easiest time for numbers and size. Those trips can be 25 fish days, no problem. And that's me taking out 10-year-olds. So I could see these guys catching 30 to 40 of them a day for sure. So, but that's also 2-pounders, dude. And you know Smith Mountain too. So you're talking they catch 18 2-pounders, go up shallow, catch 2 5s, and 2 5s and a couple 3s, 4s. That makes a huge difference. So.
Yeah. Well, late super chat here from Fishing the DMV podcast, which I know Billy's been on a few times. I forget what
Thomas, you're an idiot.
But I forget what does DMV stand for? I forget.
Delaware, Maryland, Virginia.
Okay.
Or also where you go your driver's license.
Yeah, in Minnesota. But so like I think I've seen it, right? Like a pretty good bass fishing podcast, kind of on your tri-state area over there. So if you guys live anywhere over there, it's worth checking out the DMV podcast if you fish that region, kind of mid-eastern seaboard type. I'm sure they cover the Potomac and all that kind of stuff. And
he covers a ton, and he's got cool. He dives into a lot of the biology side, dude. He has a big network of dudes that work at like the DNR and the Virginia Game and Wildlife stuff. So he has a lot of cool podcasts with like the guys that are actually doing the studies and tagging and sampling and all that sort of stuff. So he's got a good channel, man.
I mean, and he's even had you on there. So, I mean, there's that. So
for sure. With all my knowledge in my head, blowing my back out.
Yeah. So perspective, 5-day tournaments out there, like, high teens, low 20s, mid 20s. You see that kind of stuff pretty common in BFLs and team tournaments and stuff like that. So,
Yep. I think 24 pounds won last Saturday. 20 pounds should be pretty straightforward for these guys, I feel like. Yeah.
So I guess what makes up a 24-pound bag out there typically? Is it like a 7-pounder with some 4s? Like, right? It's not like or is it all 4, 4.5, 5-pounders? Or
it's usually this time of year. Yeah, it's usually like cookie cutter 5s, or maybe you got like a 380 and a 580, and then you just fill it in the middle with 4s. So I mean, dude, that's another thing we didn't talk about. I mean, yes, you've got that school range of like 2.5s to say 305s or whatever. There are some schooling spots they don't have it nearly as many fish, but there's 4-pounders that school together too. You know, maybe that's a Drew Gill type situation, or a DC or somebody like that can find that, you know. So reverting back real quick, they don't school up like Tennessee River stuff here. Like the 4-pounders, there'll be 15 of them together. Like that's a big school of big ones. Where like the 2-pounders, it's like 30 of them together. Like huge numbers, super competitive type stuff, where the 4-pounder ones, like you're not going to have nearly as many. And then the other downside that these guys have is there is a ton of stripers in here. And so the other thing with these guys are smart enough to know what a striper looks like on live scope, but the stripers may push in, going back to your marathon comment, stripers will push the bass off points every other day. You'll go to I'll go to a point that had 30 bass on it, and 12 hours, I'll end my day at 8 o'clock at night, and I'll be there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's all stripers, and there's no bass around at all. So there might be a little bit of that too, where you see guys kind of scrambling, where it's like, damn it, you know, stripes came in and pushed them off, and kind of scramble that way. So that'll be another interesting possible wrench.
Yeah. Or if your glide client, most of your glide clients don't care about if they're going to catch a 15-pound striper. They're all in.
On 7-pound line on a 2.8, dude. My favorite part of guiding, man, is a 10-year-old boy that I know just plays Fortnite all day that catches a 7-pound striper or a 3.5-pound largemouth, and I watch his brain melt, and I know he's just going to go home and start watching YouTube of like all the fishing he can watch, and then I take him out like 3 days later when he's 14. And he's like, yep, I got into fishing, and, you know, I just kind of changed their trajectory of their life, which is super cool to see. So.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Short. We talked a little bit earlier. It seems like there's an emerging herring population. It's not quite Hartwell or Clark's Hill, but it can be a factor, it sounds like, along with shad. So good deal. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. Let you get back to the fam. Wrap this up. We'll hopefully be back next week with another show. Videos coming out. Also, we got Sabine. I mean, we shouldn't forget the Sabine River starts tomorrow, which is pretty much the Smith Mountain of Texas, right? I think that's what everybody says. Last call to get your fantasy fishing lineups in for the Sabine tomorrow, and then if you played MLF fantasy fishing, you got until Friday night. But lots of live fishing this weekend. Whatever you want to see. Well, good luck on the water. Enjoy your guide trips. Hope you learned something. Hope Smith Mountain shows out, and maybe we'll be chatting about it in our text messages here.
Yep. Sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. As always, here to help you guys catch more big bass and suck less.